Welcome back everybody to another Auto World Zone video, and I think today we've got possibly one of the most exciting new bikes of this launch season, not just from Triumph, but also on the entire motorcycle market. For this is the new Trident 800, a road-focused sporty naked at what I think is a really good price point. It's also, I think it's fair to say, a bit of a looker too. And so in this video, we'll go through all of the details with everything that you need to know about it. So what exactly is it then that separates this bike from the Trident 660 that's already been on the market for a couple of years and has been a great seller for Triumph? Well, I'm sure you figured out from the name that one of the things is the engine with pretty much the same 800 inline triple as the Tiger Sport 800, which was introduced last year. That means a fairly handy 113 horsepower peak at 1012,000 RPM and then 84 Nm of peak torque at 8,500. So, the same figures as the Tiger Sport, although they do say the map, for example, and also the gearing are specific to this bike and what they expect it to be used for. Now, that is a significant step up over the Trident 660. That makes more like 81 horsepower and 64 Nm of peak torque. And so I think it's fair to say that while the 660 is, really good all-rounder, well, this one should make for a bit more liveless, a bit more fun, and a bit more serious performance. I really loved this engine when I got to review the Tiger Sport 800, and so I can imagine it's going to be a hoot in this chassis as well. Now, realistically, the sort of bikes that it'll be going up against are the M09, for example, from Yamaha that makes similar power, perhaps a little bit more. The Z900 from Kawasaki, and also I reckon to some extent the CB000 Hornet from Honda, which is the most powerful of the bunch. But I will say in some other areas that we'll get on to throughout the rest of this video, this Trident 800 still has some advantages over that CB000. Now, we just had a bit of a press briefing before I shot this video, and Triumph were keen to point out that the chassis isn't just a Trident 660 with a Tiger Sport 800 engine slapped into it. It is its own dedicated chassis that's built to reflect the sort of slightly more aggressive riding style that you'd expect on a bigger bike, like for example the suspension, which is fully adjustable. Up front you've got a 41 mm upside down shower fork. There's an adjustable shower monoshock at the rear as well. And so if you do want to get the handling and the ride dialed into your riding style or your personal taste, then that's one good reason to look at this over a 660. You've also got slightly superior braking as well. Instead of the 2-pot Nissans, you get 4-pot radially mounted brakes up front. These are Triumph branded. And while the 660 is perfectly fine on the brakes, I will say from having ridden this sort of braking setup on the Tiger Sport 800, there is a bit more power, a bit more of a sporty feel, and so again, another nice little upgrade for the 800. Wheels, of course, are cast aluminium, 17 in front and rear, and they're shot with Michelin's Road 5s, which perhaps shows how this bike is a little bit differentiated from something like the Street Triple 765 RS. These are tires that are meant to be good all-rounders for the road that can do a little bit of sporty riding, but also comfortable in less than ideal weather conditions. Whereas with something like the Street Triple, where really it's a much more sporty and serious bike that's more so at least partially intended for riding at the track. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this bike feels out on the road when we get hold of one next year. I'm expecting a really balanced all-round bike that should be a lot of fun, and the only potential downside you might expect versus something like the 660 is that they've added a bunch of weight given that they've upgraded the chassis and made the bike a little bit bigger. So look, there is a little more mass to it than a Trident 660, but still at 197 kg fully fueled up, I'd say it's more than acceptable for this style of bike, and this is one of the advantages versus something like the CB000 Hornet, where it comes in at over 210 versus the M09. It is, I think, 3 or 4 kg heavier, but it's absolutely in the right ballpark, and so another feature of this bike, hopefully, that plays into it being a real good time out on the road. Now, the ergonomics are bespoke to this model as well. So you won't find anything in common with either the Tiger Sport 800 or the Trident 660. Certainly in terms of the figures with, for example, an 810mm seat height so lower than a Tiger Sport as you'd expect, but it is a little more tail up than a Trident 660, which sits at 795mm. So that's a really good bike for around town, very easy to get both feet down, great for newer riders as well. But this position just has you a touch more like, I say, tail up a little bit further over the bars, and so perfect for that more assertive riding style. Well, I will still say though, I think the bars are a little wider and more upright than something like a street triple. And so again, this is more so designed to be more road-focused than something that's built for track riding. Pegs pretty neutral in the middle there. And then you do have reasonable provision, I would say, for a passenger. This one's the accessorized bike, so it's got the seat cover on. But you can see on the other bike over there, it's not a bad pillion perch. Although I would say if you're doing a lot of two-up riding, then potentially the Tiger Sport is going to make for the better buy. On top of that, if you are doing serious distances, that's probably another reason to look at the Tiger Sport. This one gets the same 14L tank as the Trident 660, although it does have its own surround on it to give it this slightly updated aesthetic. So, it won't be humongous in terms of range, although realistically this is a sort of fun Sunday blast kind of bike, and so hopefully that's enough for most. Now, a quick word on the technology pack on this bike, which is one of the areas I'd say in which it has possibly the most in common with the Trident 660. But I will say that does give it another key strength. You see, the 660 was recently updated with a whole bunch of stuff fitted as standard like cruise control, a quick shifter, Bluetooth connectivity, and also cornering ABS and traction control. So as you might expect from its bigger sibling, this bike gets all of that stuff as standard as well. Plus the 3 riding modes of rain, road, and sport, all of which is managed through this hybrid dash. It's an inverted LCD at the top, then a small TFT at the bottom to allow you to go through all the menus and stuff like that. And I do think it is a slightly controversial features. I know from the comments on our videos that not everybody loves the look of this dash, but I will say if you do ride one of the bikes with it, it's very easy to read out on the road, very usable, nicely laid out in terms of the menus, and so it's never been a problem for me either with press bike that I've borrowed or the Trident 660 that I owned for a year or two. So yeah, I think a really good tech pack in summary for the price, and you've even got stuff like self-canceling indicators, so nicely thought out little features. And this is another area in which I think it probably does a little better than the CB000 Hornet, which doesn't, for example, get cruise control or lean-sensitive rider rates. Now, I don't know what you guys think of the looks, but I'd love to know down in the comments, because when I first got to the studio today and saw this accessorized bike, that's the standard one over there, it really did impress me. I was kind of expecting this bike to look like a slightly bigger version, let's say, of the 660, and it does to some extent, but I think there are plenty of little touches that just give it a visual lift that make it look a bit more premium. And I reckon the result is a fantastic looking motorcycle. Like I say, the tank, for example, is bespoke to this model, so it just looks a touch more chiseled and purposeful. It gets the same, I think, headlight inner as some of the Bonnevilles. This nice little round headlight with the daytime running light built in, I think that's a different front mug guard as well. But the things that I really like on this bike are the fly screen, the belly pan, and also the tail section, which looks a little more like what you'd expect to see on a street triple. Combined, those things give it almost like a bit of a 90s Street Fighter look. I think it looks really proper cool, and it does, for me anyway, just look that bit more sexy than a Trident 660, and it's just a really nicely balanced thing to look at. As for the colors, well, you got 3 choices. There's a jet black, which is the sort of standard finish, the gray that you've got over there, but I think my pick of the bunch would probably be this Carnival Red, which is one of my favorite paints that Triumph use across the board. They use it on the Daytona 660, for example. It looks the best out of the bunch on that model, and also the discontinued Speed Triple 1200RR, which I think was breathtaking in this particular paint. One nice touch for all of the paint jobs, though, is that they all get the gold wheels, and again, that's just another thing that makes it look a bit more interesting, perhaps, than a Trident 660. This accessorized bike naturally has a bit of an edge, I would say, over the standard bike. You'd expect, say, if you're going to pay a bit more money, but it's got the scrolling indicators fitted. It's got the bar end mirrors, which really do look good, and also that tail cover that I talked about earlier, which I think really neatens up the back end and gives it a bit more of a sporty aesthetic. On top of that, it's got the Akrapovic accessory exhaust. I can't start the bikes up today, but I believe they sound pretty good with a sort of more meaty sound, let's say, than a 660. I'm not sure how much the Akrapovic does for, the sound, but certainly in terms of the looks. I think it helps to enhance the back end as well. So I think it's reasonable to say there's quite a lot to like here with this new Trident 800. But I will say on the press briefing, I was pretty impressed when I heard the price as well. This one will start at $9,195, which makes it, I think, about £300 more than the 660. It doesn't seem like a huge price difference to me for something that should go quite a bit quicker and also has a bit more pizzazz to it as well in the looks department. As for how it compares to the rest of the market, well, of course, that's less than the M09. That one comes in at just over 10 grand. It's £100-ish more than a base CB000 Hornet, which is, like I say, a more powerful machine. But then on balance, like I say, there are a couple of techie features that might make this look tempting. It's a little bit lighter as well, and I think visually it has the edge too. Interestingly, around the 9 grand mark makes it very close indeed to the Street Triple R, which is the slightly more affordable spec of the, hero product, which is the Street Triple RS. Can those two bikes coexist at basically the same price point with a lot of the same spec as well? Well, Triumph say they're both going to be on sale, and they'll, I guess, let the sales figures decide. So, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. For me, this one potentially looks the better of the two, and also with the engine tuned for a bit more mid-range and low-end could make for the better road bike. Although the proof will be in the pudding, which is of course the ride-in. So there we have it, a quick whistle-stop tour of the new Trident 800 from Triumph, and as always, I'd love to know what you think of it down in the comments below. Now, if you want to see my review of the Tiger Sport 800, which I shot a few months back, then I'll put that on the screen now so you can give it a watch and get a bit of a feel for how this bike might kind of ride, certainly with the same engine, same brakes, and stuff like that. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews right here on MotoBob. A massive thanks for watching today, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.